Hello, most wonderful artists. For today's winter skyscape, you'll need a piece of paper, preferably cardstock, but you can use a regular sheet, a black Sharpie or crayon, a white oil pastel or crayon, and some watercolors. Let's get started. For our skyscape, we want to think about the rule of thirds. So divide your paper into 3 sections. The sky will take up the top 2. So in the bottom section is where we will draw our city. I've given you some ideas, and there's lots of detailed buildings, so pick and choose whichever ones you'd like to put together to create your own order. What I don't want to see is the exact same buildings that I'm drawing, because these are my buildings that I'm putting together. You're welcome to use my idea sheet, but I don't want you to copy exactly the buildings that I'm drawing because these are mine and this is my idea, and I want to see yours and how you put together buildings and shapes and different windows and rooftops. So keeping that in mind, try to fill the bottom third of your paper up. I'm using a really thin-tipped marker. If you don't have a really thin-tipped marker, because this is going to be so detailed, you can also use a ballpoint marker or a ballpoint pen. If you have a black pen, you can use that as well. Because I do want you to spend a lot of time adding in all those details. That's what's going to really make your paper, your drawing, stand out. All right, you can pause here or you can keep watching me do mine, but remember, you're not copying mine. I want you to draw your own buildings. All right, I cannot wait to see what order you come up with. Pause here until you're done. All right, the next step is to take a white oil pastel or crayon and begin filling up your sky with tiny dots, stars, swirls, constellations. However you do it, fill it up and keep them pretty small. We don't want to draw a giant star in the sky because that will look a little strange next to our tiny buildings. We want this to look like a galaxy. You can always lift your paper up and kind of roll it around in the light to see where you've marked and where you need to maybe fill some more in. On to the watercolor. First things first, get my paint wet by putting a dollop of water in the colors I'm going to use. In this case, I'm using the purples, the blues, and then the magenta. And then I'm going to start adding all those colors. And I'm going to add some water to my paper first, and then add more of the color so that it will really swirl together and mix in. Do your best to avoid coloring inside the buildings, but if you get in a little bit, don't worry about it. Our sky is going to be so full of life and color that you won't really notice. All right, keep filling it and really try to keep your paper not so wet that it's soaking through, but we do want that wetness because when we add salt to our paper, if you decide to add salt, That's what will get soaked up. So make sure you blend all your colors and get in between any of your buildings. From here, if you would like to, the last thing is to take some salt and sprinkle it all over your watercolor. As your watercolor dries, the salt will absorb some of that liquid and will leave behind a really beautiful pattern.